Everybody, thanks for stopping on the video. So behind me here we have a 2001 Grand Touring 600 Twin. Now this is something I have not been looking forward to. At the end of last season I had a grinding noise coming from sort of the Speedo cable area or the jack shaft, at least what I assume was the jack shaft. So I've decided with 10,000 kilometers on the machine, now is probably a really good time before the season starts to replace those bearings that are up front, pull the skid out, make sure that I do all the bearings and all of the wheels. So I've gone ahead, I've ordered the upper bearings for both the driven side and the chain case side on the top where the clutch is. And I've also ordered the bearings on the jack shaft on both sides, the one that's inside of the chain case and the one that's on the side of the Speedo cable. Now I don't want to do this. This is something I have not been looking forward to because it's a lot of work to pull that skid out and get that track off of there. But we're going to persevere like we do on this channel all the time, and we're going to get to it. So let's start by pulling the skid, I guess. So we got the skid bolts out, as you can see. We dropped the skid. Now, don't drop it like I did. Maybe you should put something underneath. I just was in a hurry, wasn't paying attention. Alright, so there's the exhaust on the floor and some more parts over there. I got a battery shield right there. So all we've done is we've removed our exhaust, taken the exhaust springs off. Now, don't go hurting yourself taking exhaust springs off, guys. It's super easy. I took this screwdriver, just made a groove in it, and all you need to do is just hook a spring and pull. So now we have access to our chain case. I think the next step now, I'm going to consult my manual, eManualOnline, and I'll show you guys that in a minute. Next we're going to be disconnecting this piece here. Oh, and I can't forget to mention, we're going to have to drop the chain case oil, and that smells wonderful. Here's the chain case, and I've got a mirror. So if we look at the mirror really closely here, you guys can see underneath, right here, this is where you actually insert the tool to actually drain the chain case oil. Okay, so I'm kind of glad with that light under my chin. Again, this year, I do have water in the chain case, and you can see there, that's not metal filings over there, guys, that's just dirt. You can see that milky, streaky color. I did notice that on the back here, right in there, I do have a seal leaking. We are going to be changing the seals because I bought some. Still don't like this. All right, so I got the 4 cover bolts off, 1, 2, 3, 4 down at the bottom. Now I'm just working on this one right here. Just remove this guy. All right, now we got those off. I think the next step, according to the eManualOnline, so we unfastened the tie rod, we did that. We unscrewed the cover screws, as well as the reverse axle screw, which was this right here. Oh, there's a washer there, guys, be careful. And then once that's done, then we separate number 6 from the housing, and then we move it towards the front in order to disengage the fork from the slide gear. So let's see how easily this thing comes off here. Right, guys, so I get asked quite often, where do you get your torque specs? Where do you get your information on what you need for parts and stuff like that? All I can say is eManualOnline has over I think it's like 2.5 million manuals online currently. They're all in a PDF format like this. They can be searched. You can type in words up on the top here, search what you're looking for. If I wanted to find something related to belt, I could simply type in, not belly, but belt. And it'll bring me to every single word with belt, and I just keep scrolling through like that. Dry belt, gives me all the specs.
Anyway, these manuals are a hidden gem for do-it-yourselfer guys like myself and probably you if you're watching this, and really helps take stuff apart, put it back together. But particularly important is most definitely torque specifications and maybe even some hidden little tricks that you just might not know about otherwise. So again, eManualOnline, guys, check them out. Their website is fantastic. Here's their website, the catalogs that they have of cars and agriculture and tractors, marine, whatever you think, motorbikes. It's all there. The prices are amazing. I think Canadian, you're looking at anywhere from $20 to $35 for a manual. This is my go-to. This should be yours. Don't wait. Check out the link in my description. Jump on there, get your manual, and repair it properly the first time, because, you know, you do something wrong, it can cost you more money than what a manual costs you, that's for sure.
There we go. That was super easy. All right, so our next step is we're going to remove or loosen the chain tension. So here's the tensioner for the chain right here, and right over here there's a B-clip. So we're going to pull that B-clip out like so. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be threading this big bolt. I don't know if you guys can see that in there. There's a big bolt right there. And then what we're going to be doing next, our next step is going to be coming down here. We're removing this bolt. And once this bolt is removed, we're going to be sliding this gear off. So let's do that and I'll come back to you. All right, so far this is going amazing. We got our bottom bolt off. Now to do this, you got to put the park brake on so that it locks the driven shaft here down to the jack shaft. So we pulled that gear off. Now next we're going to pull the reverse idler, I think, off is what they called it. And it's got this little rubber thing inside and a needle bearing. So we're going to put that in our bucket nice and carefully. Next we're going to remove the reverse shaft. So we're just going to wiggle this guy out. Lift up on the chain. And no surprises there. That's great. All right, so next step is going to be to remove this shaft here along with the gear. So they're saying pull the shaft out. And they're saying there's a spacer in there as well. Pull that out nice and slow. And we're going to grab the chain. And we're going to pull the chain off with the gear. See back there, there should be a spacer here, and there is. There's our spacer. Yeah, and you can see there's milk and rust there, so that's probably where my leak is, where I'm getting water inside and losing fluid. So it's good that we're doing this. Okay, so we've got all the bottom apart. Next thing we're going to do is this castle nut here, and there is a cotter pin. So we're going to remove that cotter pin. Cotter pins are wonderful to remove. Looks like there's some type of foam inside there or some kind of packing or something. Well, that went super well. I am pretty impressed how easy that went. So here we go. I got the cover off. You guys can see there. A little bit of a tapping with a mallet did the trick. And then I just simply lifted the brake caliper up and over. And I pulled off the brake rotor, which is sitting right there. And I most definitely had a leak from this seal here, as you can tell. It does look a little distorted. So this is a good idea. I'm glad I got the stuff that I need to repair it. So I'm going to go ahead. This is a really good opportunity just to clean all this up in here as well. Now I've taken off the box, the air box right here, so that I can gain access to those nuts that are back there. This is going so smooth that I'm sure Karma is going to catch up with me here, because things on this channel just never go this smoothly. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've removed the air box so that I can get access to the bolts that are down here to remove this front piece that you see right here. And this is the bearing side for the actual, let me just grab it here, bearing side for the actual driven shaft or the secondary clutch shaft. And this is what locks that bearing into place like so. And the reason why I pulled the shaft out, I just wanted to inspect it to make sure it was nice and clean. So here is the shaft here. This is the chain case side. So I was able to pull the shaft out of the chain case side this way. So now that I have the shaft removed, so you're probably asking yourself, how did I get that bearing off of the shaft? Well, it was really simple. I simply heated the inner race with a propane torch, and then just took a hammer and lightly tapped the bearing this way. And I just did that enough just to heat the inside of this. It's still hot actually. Heat the inside of this bearing, which was on like so. And then I just tapped it off like that. Now the new bearing, you're going to see the old bearing looks like this. The new bearing looks like this. It does not have this lip on it on this side. So it does come with this piece right here. And this is a kit that they included. That goes like so. So that'll be sliding back onto the shaft. Oops, I'm just going to slide that on like that. That's going to go there. And then once the shaft is back in place, we're just going to be tapping those back into place like so. This is nice and clean. I don't feel any burrs. As well as the other side where the actual seal was seating. That is also nice and smooth. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit more and then reinstall the shaft and get this bearing put back on. Okay, again, I'm freaking out because everything is going way too well. So I've gone ahead and got this back in. I was able to just simply tap the bearing on with a large socket, tapped it back into place, making sure I had the spacer in its place where it's supposed to go. Tightened down these bolts here. Couldn't find the torque specs for these, so it was like... Excellent. So now that we've got this one done, I'm going to disassemble this side down here. We're going to start by removing the bracket here. If we can get these loose, take this bracket off, remove the Speedo cable, and we're going to go ahead and start taking this one apart. So again, total bewilderment on my part. That shaft came out, no problem. Pulled it out of the bottom this way, it came out here, and I'm going to show you, I replaced that bearing on this side here, and it was fairly simple. So here is the shaft that I removed from underneath, the jack shaft. And this shaft here has a bearing on this side, as you can see. Now you are going to require a puller, a 3-jaw puller, to pull this bearing off, unless you want to heat it and try and bang it off. But it's a lot easier just to put the puller on and pull it off. The inside of the shaft here does have a dimple index that came off really easily. Now there is also this collar. There's a slinger or a dirt collar on the back here that prevents garbage from getting inside. So when you put your jaw puller on, you don't want to put it on this piece right here, this little ring, because you'll damage that. So it was just on the outside of the race, and I pulled off no problem. And then to get the other one on, I just simply tapped it on with a hammer this way, and then used a larger socket that fits over top of the shaft and on the center, and banged it back in. And you're also going to need snap ring pliers to remove the snap ring that is right here. So I've gone ahead, this is reassembled. I have cleaned the shaft on this side here with the emery cloth. This is where the bearing rides on the inside when it goes into the case, as well as the seal, and it is nice and smooth. There is no marks or grooves that I can feel with my fingers. So I'm fairly confident this is going to go back together well. Getting it back in is going to be a pain in the butt because getting it out was a pain in the butt. It was jamming and stuff. And when you're putting it back in, you don't want to scratch the seal mating surface here on the metal part on the inside when you're sliding this back in. So I suggest putting a rag on the hole. I'll show you guys that when I go to reassemble it. But so far, so good. I haven't needed any really special tools other than the snap ring pliers and this. And a lot of luck, I think. This is the bearing that you see here. It's sealed on one side, open on the other. The replacement bearing is sealed on both sides. So I believe what I have to do is remove this seal here off of the bearing, so that when you pump grease into the, it's over there on the floor, but when you pump grease into the cap that goes over top where your Speedo cable threads into, that it greases this bearing as well. So we're, what, 2.5 hours into this, taking our time. It's going well. All right, remember how I said things always go wrong in this channel, or sometimes go wrong, but it was going too well. Remember I said karma was going to come back and bite me? It did. Because what I ended up doing is I pressed the wrong bearing onto the shaft without looking at the other bearings I had. And if you remember just a few seconds ago, I said, well, I might have to remove that seal. Well, this was the bearing for the chain case. I actually had the correct bearing for the shaft, so I had to pull this bearing with the puller off of the shaft, install the correct bearing into the correct position, which has the open seal. Go figure. And I did not damage the bearing. So sometimes it's good to have pullers. So that wasted half an hour. There you go. All right, so here you'll see we got the chain case side where the bearings were. So there is 2 snap seals right here. There's 1 snap seal there and 1 there. And these bearings took very little effort to get out of there. I would think just heating this with a heat gun, the bearing would just fall right out. This one was a little bit more complicated to get out of there. I had to tap it from the other side with a socket, and that worked really well. So now I just got to pop these seals out. Seals there, and that one there. Making sure I don't damage anything, and then get the seals put back in and the bearings. I still got to do the skid bearings for the skid down there. That'll be a separate video. I won't show it on this video. But Ash is enjoying himself in front of the heater. It's a little chilly outside today in Northern Ontario. Well, I got most of it back together. All right, so I got the shafts back in, both the upper shaft and the lower shaft. I'll show you guys right here if you look. So I have that shaft that's back in. That's the jack shaft. And then I have the driven shaft right here. That's back in. That's all tightened up and torqued. This is tightened up as well. I didn't have any torque specs for this, but I was able to find the torque specs for this in my eManualOnline. All right, so on this side here, I went and installed everything, and then I remembered I forgot to put the brake rotor back on. Remember to put your brake rotor back on. That's a very important thing because I had to pull it off again. I had a real hard time getting the seal, this upper seal, into the housing on this side here. You're going to need a seal installing tool for that. That would have gone a lot easier. I probably fought with that about an hour not to damage the seal. So I was heating the housing and then tapping and heating the housing. Finally managed to get it to seat. Got the bearing in, the seat clip on both those. And now I'm just slowly putting this back together. I have to torque this down. I have 1 bolt in the cover here holding it up against the actual chassis. And then we're going to be doing some chain tension once I refer to the user manual, see what's going on. Applied some gear oil on this roller. Keep that lubricated, and I think I got everything back together the way it goes. So then I'm going to go ahead and reinsert the castle nut on here, put that back together. Cover cleaned up and the seal cleaned up on the cover. Just sitting right here. We got that all cleaned up. And I don't have any spare parts left in my bucket, which is a good thing. This is a pretty technical job, I have to admit. This was a lot more technical than I thought it was going to be. Possible to do by yourself? No, not at all. Anybody, if you got patience and you got time, you can definitely get this done. Is there opportunity to damage a whole lot of stuff and break stuff and end up worse off than when you started? Oh yeah, very much so. The torques and the bearings pressing onto the shafts and stuff like that, you are going to need some tools to do that. You will need a puller and propane torch and that kind of stuff, but does not make it impossible. So remember, I'm doing this in my garage. You can do this too. All right, so we got everything back together. Got the exhaust back on, chain cases back on, everything's hooked back up, shafts are in. So all we are waiting for now is we're gonna get the clutch back on. That I think is everything in this area here. Then we'll need to, of course, get our skid back in. So the skid is there. We have to do the bearings on that. That's gonna be another video, so you can watch that. Once this is all done, I'm going to put the skid back in there and we can get it started up, and hopefully it works. All right, here's this side here. So everything is buttoned back up. Our battery tray back in. It is filled with oil. All the locks are back on. And I think we're ready to go. Springs are back on. Whew, all right. Well, it's done. 8, 9 long hours later, it's all back together. As you can see, it's all reassembled. Now we did adjust the track, got the skid back in, adjusted the track properly. All that worked out fantastic. Make sure to double check, triple check, quadruple check your chain case oil, because when you're filling the chain case and the back is lifted, you will get an incorrect reading on your dipstick. So now that it's back level, I checked it again, and sure enough, it's low. As reverse works, forward works, no funny noises. I can't run it long enough in the garage, fumigate myself to figure out whether or not anything's leaking yet. I don't see any fluid in the bottom of the actual belly pan, so that's a good thing. So if you guys have any questions, this was a pretty, I'd say on a level of 1 to 10 difficulty, 10 being the most difficult, this was probably a good 6. So if you have any questions, if you're stuck in an area, you want to drop me a message or send me a comment, see if I can help you out. It did go well. I didn't have any major issues. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.